How we doing, folks? Give me just a second to make sure I'm 5x5 and we'll get started. There we go. We good to go. Good morning, nation. Vin Diesel here. Nah, I'm just picking. It's not Vin Diesel. Y'all calm down. It is John here at Prepper Nation. Though I can understand where the confusion might come in. A quick announcement. Shotgun Saturday night, tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hopefully I see you there and not protesting in D.C. Y'all want to stay away from that, okay? So here we go. We're going to get straight into it this morning. Just to let you know, real quick, over on Shotgun Saturday night, the way it works, the patrons, the folks on Patreon, actually pick the content for the show tomorrow night. So they've picked it. It's great content. And we're going to get into now the most likely SHTF. What is it? So there are plenty of scenarios, right? OFC Nation, I believe, just covered, he did a great video on the Civil War, which I do also believe is coming. I agree with him 100%. But I don't think it's the most likely SHTF that's directly in front of us. I think it's further down the road a ways. I mean, we could completely run out of food. We could have an economic collapse. But folks, I believe, and let me know what you think in the comments, but I believe the most likely SHTF that we're going to face short term is going to be a complete and total grid down. There are a few people in the chat that are not normally here. So thank you for being here. I saw somebody was in Hawaii. They said it was like 3 in the morning. I'm like, are you nuts, son? I'd be in the bed. But I appreciate you being here anyway. So to me, complete grid down. I mean, I look at our grid system, and I'm not an expert. Y'all correct me if I'm wrong, but I think when you look at the United States, I believe there's 5. There may be 6, but I believe there's 5 different like independent grids that are running our country. It's just like a whole patchwork, you know, that it's evolved over the years. It's gotten older. And then you factor in, Ryan says, like that hat, son. I appreciate it. Then you factor in the threat of a cyber attack, right? That threat's real. 1 or 2 well-placed, well-thought-out cyber attacks can cripple our grid here in the United States. So it is, it's a big deal, guys. They say, I think this number's a little high, personally, but they say that up to 90% of the people that live in an area with no grid for an entire year would not survive. I think most of the people wouldn't survive. 90% is kind of high, though. I think you're going to have some people that are going to adapt. Not many, but you're going to have some. Hatch says if you can hack a pipeline, you can hack a power plant. Absolutely. They can do it remotely. They can shut the country down. Just like this, you know what I mean? And really put people in a hurting. So what I've done here, instead of just coming out and rambling and saying, oh, I think a grid down's, you know, the most likely scenario, I actually, at 11:30 last night, I mapped out 3 days, what I would do in the first 3 days if there was a complete grid down situation. Okay, now, you have to factor in there's going to be no internet. You know, if it's an EMP or something like this, vehicles aren't going to run for the most part. If it's not an EMP, vehicles will run, but at some point you're going to run into the problem of where do you get gasoline? Because the pumps are electric and everything. So just some stuff to consider, but this is what I'm going to do day 1, day 2, and day 3 if the grid goes down. Now, this can be a snowstorm that's only going to last 3 or 4 days that I'm talking about here, okay? Or it could be an EMP strike. So take it with a grain of salt, all right? First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to factor in the weather. You got to know, is it wintertime, is it summertime, because that matters. If it's, and both of them, believe it or not, have advantages and disadvantages. So if it's wintertime, it's cold outside. You can get a lot of your food outside if you need to in coolers and things, especially if there's snow laying on the ground, right? Because then you have ice for the coolers. The downside is it's going to be cold, so you got to figure out how to stay warm. So if it's wintertime, immediately we call it the cold gear is coming out. The wool blankets, the mummy bags, the toboggans, the whole 9 yards. If it's summertime, the upside is you don't have to worry about freezing to death, right? The downside is now you really have to start worrying about losing the food in your fridge and your freezer, things like this, staying cool inside the home, okay? And I'm trying to watch the chat in case you folks have anything to add there, and I'm sure I'm missing a ton. But I will go back and I will see what you guys have to say on this. I promise you. So the number 2 thing that I'm going to do on day 1, and this sounds crazy, I'm going to my local grocery store. And here's why, especially if it's a long-term deal, okay? If I can get there, if there's 2 foot of snow on the ground, I may not be able to get there. But in the case of like an EMP strike or something like this, because at that point, fiat currency still has value. I mean, it doesn't really have value anyway, but the system hasn't caught up with the fact that it doesn't have value yet. So you may be able to go to your local Dollar General and drop what fiat currency you have and get things that you're going to need long term. Again, grocery stores and things like this. I'm trying to spend as much of that off as I can on day 1 because it's not going to take them very long to figure it out. Now, your larger stores, your Walmarts and maybe a large Kroger's or something, they may not actually have the ability to take cash without registers. Like a lot of these places are just like they'll shut the doors. But your smaller stores, for the most part, I think will still try and do these transactions because they still want the money, even though as a prepper, it's about to lose its value. I'm thinking about backup options. So do you have solar panels and, the 12-volt batteries? Do you have more conventional stuff like generators, candles, things like this? Pull them out. Get the stuff out that you're going to need. Go ahead, especially if it's daytime, go ahead and make sure, the solar's hooked up right or the generator's ready to go, stuff like this, okay? Fill everything with water. A lot of people like the water bobs, which are awesome. You can find them on Amazon. I haven't linked them or anything, but, they're there. But even if you don't have a water bob, throw a plug in the bathtub. There we go. Struggling this morning. It's Friday. And just fill it up with water. You can actually use this in most cases to flush the toilet and stuff. And that'll get you down the ways a little bit. But fill everything up. Every safe container that you have, fill up with water in case it goes down next. So 5-gallon buckets. We got all kinds of food stuffed in them. At that point, what I'm doing is I'm pulling that food out. Not the Mylar stuff, but the individually packaged stuff, and I'm filling the 5-gallon buckets up as well. And I'll just seal them back with the lid because I can put them in the Berkey. I can put the water in the Berkey and filter it. So your refrigerator is going to last roughly 4 hours before you have to start thinking about the food inside. The food will become an issue many times after 4 hours. So you really have 4 hours to get some coolers out and get set up. Again, if this is wintertime, you can, honestly, we've done it. You can just put some snow in the bottom and then you can unload the refrigerator into coolers. If it's not, as a prepper, you should have plenty of ice packs. Say it with me, son. You've got plenty of ice packs. And what we do, and this sounds ridiculous probably, but we have a bunch of ice packs, and then we also buy a bunch of the smaller bags of vegetables and stick them in the freezer because those can actually double as ice packs. So you can lay those down in the cooler, move your stuff from the fridge there, okay? Again, this is on day 1. Your freezer is going to last a lot longer. I think they say 48 hours, give or take an hour or two, depending on what kind you have. So that's what I'm doing on day 1. And it's worth mentioning, if you go to the store, Robert Winslow says, son, I got plenty of ice packs. There you go. If you go to the store, Either be strapped up or have somebody with you if at all possible, because it's going to be chaos. You want to get rid of that fiat. You want to turn it into stuff that last minute preps. It's going to be your last trip to a grocery store, like if there's an EMP strike or something. It's your last chance. But it's going to be chaotic. There are going to be people scrambling. There are going to be people that maybe want what you have in line and you're checking out with. So you want to make sure you're protected there, okay? Day 2, and I'm sure there's plenty of other things you can do on day 1, all right? But again, I put these together 11:30 last night. Day 2, I'm thinking at this point about collecting wood, maybe splitting wood, especially if you have a wood stove, or concentrating on how to stay cool in your home. Okay, what windows are safe to open? Do you have enough water maybe to dip sheets into the water and then just put them up? That works well. Stuff like this. I'm thinking at this point on day 2 about the rain catchment system, which sounds fancy, but folks, it's really not. You can set anything out when it's raining. The main thing is have additional tarps. And what we do here is you can hang the tarp, off the roof or something, and then in the middle you put something. I've used rocks. I've also used crappy pocket knives, I ain't gonna lie. And you put them in the middle of the tarp, and what that does is it kind of bows the tarp in, and it directs where you want the water to go, and then you just put the bucket underneath the weighted item. But they sell folding rain barrels. They sell those, I think, on Amazon, where you can just store them. They don't take up a lot of room, but during an SHTF, you can just pull them bad boys out. Around here, the most popular thing is 55-gallon drums, like the plastic drums, and they're all blue around here, and I don't know why. I don't know why blue's the color, but it is. And, finally, you can get into Ibc Totes. These are if you've ever seen them, the Ibc Tote, it's just a huge white plastic tote. They normally have some kind of gating around them. They use these on farms. And I believe, I'm not an expert on this one now, so if you guys know, I believe they hold 320 or 330 gallons of water, like the average Ibc Tote. But rain catchment is going to be, the most important thing I'm worried about that day, because water is going to become an issue rather quickly. Day 3. Okay, 275, thank you. 330. There are different sizes, but I think the average, again, is around 230, 240, something like that. It's a lot more than you're going to get out of a 55-gallon, okay? So day 3, this is where weather specific, very important, I'm thinking about putting seeds in the ground at this point, okay? So if the climate is such that you can grow and you can produce, get seeds in the ground, because you don't know how long the grid is going to be down. Now, this is not if you have a snowstorm and you get an alert on your phone and the power company says we'll have it restored, in a day or two. You don't have to rush out and start planting a garden. I'm talking about if there's no electricity, no internet, EMPs have hit, and for a fact it's going to be many, many years in the dark, so to speak. Get the seeds in the ground. Designate an area, if possible, on your property for garbage and waste and things like this, okay? You don't want to put it right outside your back door. It's not fun to talk about, but you don't want rodents and things rolling up in your crib, okay? You want to keep it as clean as possible. Day 3, when I know it's long-term dark, is when I'm dragging everything out, prepping-wise, and I'm going to inventory everything. Because at this point, I understand we may have to start rationing. Okay, a lot of people would, eat like kings and queens for a couple of months, and then they're going to run out of food or way low. It's better to ration, I think, on the front end. when you know it's long term. And you're pulling all of your equipment out. You really want to be strategic about how you do this, okay? So inventory everything. That's like the main theme of day 3 for me. And I'm thinking about an outdoor cooking station that just takes, biomass fuel like wood and stuff like that. Do you have a charcoal grill? Do you have, an old steel drum sitting out in the backyard? A lot of us do here in the South. Or trash can. Flip that thing over, son. Put some wood in it. Turn it into a grill somehow. Go out into the woods if you have them nearby. Get you some big rocks. Build you a fire pit, something like this, so you can cook long term. And I'm thinking about securing the home. Locking it down, day 3. So there's all that, because I think the first couple of days, and this may be wrong on my part, I think the first couple of days people are going to be at the stores. They're going to be panicking, panic buying and hoarding and stuff like this. After the first couple of days, I believe they're going to kind of migrate away from that, and they'll get to a point soon thereafter where they may start preying on people. So you want to secure the home, okay? And we're going to talk about that tomorrow night. I had an excellent question on securing the home and also mobile homes. So we'll get into that tomorrow night. What do you folks have to add to the conversation that I have missed? Wow, I have a steel drum. Timothy, keep it. Because, we've used them on camping trips, like when there were a lot of people there, to grill with, actually. But during SHTF, you can do that. You can potentially use them to keep warm and stuff. They double as a fire pit, you know what I mean? Make sure window AC units are secure, easy entry point. That is a good point. The only way that mine would be staying in with the grid down is if I'm running them off of a generator. Otherwise, they're coming out anyway. Marcia says, once the power is down, the stores are depleted. Then the great bread line will start. Well, it'll be total chaos. You'll have, I think, the military, FEMA jumping in, and they'll set up lines like that. But beyond those designated areas, I think there would be a lot of robbing and looting, and it just wouldn't be safe. You know what I mean? So you do want to work on security after a couple of days. I think you have a couple of days for people to catch up to the fact that they're screwed if they haven't been prepping. And once they catch up to that fact, they're going to get really desperate, and they're willing at that point, I think, to do anything. That's a good point. Let me see here. Somebody said day 2, fortify the perimeter. But some people are in a situation where they're in a townhome or an apartment or something. So, it just depends on what your property looks like. Everybody's is different, right? My situation is totally different than somebody who is in downtown Brooklyn, for example. I don't even, look, as a country boy, I don't even know what I would do in that situation. I think if I'm stuck in a city, folks, and I'm not the guy to take advice from, if I'm stuck in a city, I'm grabbing what food I can. I'm grabbing some catchment stuff, buckets and things, and a tent, and I'm going to a roof, and I'm going to secure the door, and I'm just going to try and survive it on the roof as long as I can. But again, I'm not the city expert when it comes to prepping by any means. So there you go. I'd be like calling up Canadian Prepper. Hey man, except the phones don't work, right? Canadian Prepper, for those that don't know, I just saw yesterday, PayPal completely shunned him. They shut him down. They shut his account down because he runs a preparedness store where he sells survival gear and survival food, and it's just ridiculous. So, yeah, he really knows what he's doing. I've talked to him a couple times in passing. It's not like we're best buds or anything, but, he's a cool dude. Bubba Redneck, I'm country like you. I would have never guessed that, Bubba Redneck, from that name. Dusty, Korean rooftops gone country. It would be wherever I was at. I'm not, if I'm in an apartment or something, I'm going to the roof. I'm going to make a couple trips and get all the stuff I think I need, and then I'm chaining the roof door shut or something and praying for rain at that point. Ethan, I think the government will probably seize boomsticks, so have a few cheap ones underground. It'll be a situation, I think, of total chaos. If it got to that point, it is very possible that the government would come around and seize a lot of stuff. So again, you want to be able to hide some of your stuff really quickly, like you're talking about, especially when it comes to boomsticks. But they have lists, right? They have lists. We have boating accidents. It's the game we play. Marcia, country boy can survive. That's correct. But you need to think about the threat of other country boys and girls out here who also got boomsticks and would potentially prey on you. So there is strength in numbers, I guess, during SHTF. Brenda says she is going to paint Wolverines on plywood. Well, there you go. That might keep a few of the looters away. This younger generation, they don't know what you're talking about when you say that. Everybody else would be like, I better not go up there. Brenda, that's good. She says, my dogs are prepped in dog food. That's great because there's a shortage of it right now. Dave, I agree, but more water. You need as much water as you can possibly get. That's, again, fill up everything that you possibly can as soon as the power goes out, because you don't know how long the water is going to be there at that point. Bubba Redneck, they can have my busted high point. Before we move along here, I used to have a high point 380 that jammed on me. I swear to you, it jammed like every third shot. And we did everything that we could, man. We took this thing apart. We cleaned it. It was not dinged up anywhere. I mean, it just liked to jam up. So I eventually traded it off because that's what people in the South be doing. Never buy a high point 380 from somebody wearing camo or trade for it, because you're probably going to get beat on that trade. So a couple of people have inboxed me since late last night, and they have told me that they're seeing a liquor shortage at their local, like their package stores, their ABC stores, whatever they're called in your state. They said they normally carry thousands of bottles, and they've went in to kind of refill their preps. I don't judge. I don't ask no questions on that. And now they only have hundreds, and they're hard limits on a lot of things, and the prices have went up a whole lot. So yeah, let's see here. Hatch says our local ABC has about 10% stock. Not kidding. From a prepping standpoint, this is bad because alcohol is barterable. Think about it. If people drink every day and we have a complete grid down or something like that, or if the alcohol runs out, I mean, that stuff's liquid gold. They will at that point trade you almost anything to get that liquor. It can be used for first aid. It's got to be over a certain proof, and you can use it to sanitize. I mean, it has all kinds of, you can use it sometimes for medicinal purposes, or just to take the edge off a little bit. I think, let me see here. Help me out, chat. I think 80 to 120 proof. I think you want to shoot for 120 proof in order to sanitize, but I think that it starts having first aid around 80 proof. Starts having benefits on first aid. But I mean, morale, that's very good, Ethan. It does boost morale. I mean, you have to think about it for a second. If you're squatting in your home and you just saw EMPs go off the day before, and you know, we got decades of living in the dark, basically. your morale is going to be in the crapper. And stuff like this, is going to... Okay, 140 proof. Thank you very much, Arkansas Living. I knew it was something high, man. I don't drink. I haven't drank in a long time. But I know you got to get up towards moonshine or extremely strong vodka at that point to completely sanitize. At least 70%. I mean, we have the package stores around here, Arkansas, but how can I put this? Moonshine's rampant here. Most people prefer the moonshine, and they really have two separate, like they'll have the cherry bounce for entertainment, and then everybody has just clear or blue flame for, barter or sanitizing and stuff like that. Night of the Living Prepper, how you doing, brother? Shut up and play. Just made a batch of strawberry wine. We don't drink, but we have wine for barter. And we do have a little bit of the other stuff, but not much. Just sits here. It's not like it's going bad, right? Wine's not going to expire on you. So finally, I wanted to mention this. I saw a couple of people in the chat mention it before I went live. But Del Rio, Texas, for those that don't know, they were flying drones yesterday at the border because they couldn't believe what they were seeing, and they put out images. There are estimated to be over 10,000 illegal immigrants right there at the border. Texas has them stopped, but these migrants are now under a bridge. They're basically camped out under this huge bridge. I guess it's a highway or an interstate or something like this. And Abbott down in Texas, they're supplying water and stuff, so these people won't leave. They don't want them to die, so they're giving them, water and the necessities that they need in order to live. And he's asking Biden for help. Biden is not replying. He's not sending any kind of help. He doesn't even want to have the conversation. And so this morning I woke up to news that the FAA has grounded all drones down there now. They say it's not safe to have drones flying around in this area. And to me, the truth is they don't want people to see what's really going on. They don't want you to see how bad the border crisis actually is. We say border crisis, and it's bad enough to hear the words, but then when you see photos and video of 10,000 plus people trying to camp out under, this huge underpass or whatever it is, it's just sad. It almost looks like a part of California that Gavin Newsom's been in charge of. You know what I mean? He has tent cities everywhere. But the folks in California are citizens, right? These people aren't even supposed to be here. They're just trying to bust their way through the country. And, I'm not heartless and everything. Some of them are asylum seekers. But my God, you can't show up, 10,000 strong and try and push your way through the country and expect America and Texas to be okay with that. It's just not the way it works. Joan T says they're just trying to protect the identity of the voters coming in. I can't imagine living on a border town in Texas. I've been to and through Texas. It's a huge state. It's a beautiful state. But we were never, we went as far as I think Texarkana. We were never really right there to where the crisis is at. You know what I mean? I can't imagine living there and having to worry about waking up in the middle of the night and seeing immigrants just coming through your yard or whatever, or potentially breaking in. Or worse. Jennifer Cruz, okay, I'll do that. She said, check Ted Cruz's Twitter. He was there and recorded it. Okay, I did not know that. I'll go in and check that. That is awesome. Probably getting some buffering now, right? Just buffered a little on my end. Can't mention old Teddy, can ya? Good morning, OFC Nation. I was just mentioning your Civil War video at the beginning. I went through, I lurked on it and watched it, brother. It's a good video, and I do agree that it's unavoidable. It's just a matter of when it's going to happen. American trucker, pork plants under biological hazard lockdowns over African swine fever outbreaks in other countries. Well, that's lovely. You know, we just got pork aplenty here in the United States, so why not? Jody, I'm late to the stream. Have y'all shared possum recipes yet? You'd have to ask Arkansas Living about that. If he's still in here. Arkansas Living can probably tell you all about it. We have them. They are nasty. I would eat them if I was starving to death, but otherwise, no, that ain't happening. Steve, fences are up again at the Capitol. Yes, folks, please avoid the rally in D.C. tomorrow. You'll be glad you did. It is a straight-on trap. They got the cheese out on the trap waiting. Going to try and catch them some Patriots. And I would rather see you at Shotgun Saturday night anyway, to be honest. But yeah, it would be nice if the government would actually do a little something down south and help Texas out. And it's political, you know what I mean? Biden doesn't like Greg Abbott and vice versa, and they're on two different sides of the aisle. But the people that are suffering are the people in Texas, you know, and the migrants. They need to be told, you need to go back home. You need to go somewhere else. You need to do this legally, okay? Everclear, Holly, Everclear will sanitize anything. It will peel paint off cars. So if you find that and you want to stock that, go ahead. Good morning, Rock. How are you doing? Jennifer Cruz, they'll probably have Patriot impersonators there to point fingers. And we're going to get into it tomorrow, Jennifer, and I'll close with this. But mainstream media yesterday, they acted upset that not more Patriots are planning on going. And to me, that seems very weird because they've been talking about the insurrection, you know, that happened, and they can't believe it happened, and we should never let it happen again. And now they're like cheerleading people to go to this rally over on, you know, on the left, and it just doesn't make sense. It's like they're trying to usher you over there. Don't do it. I mean, there's no way it ends well if you're there. It is a trap, Hatch. I do believe so. But yeah, I mean, when you have the left like Yahoo and you have CNN and you have people like Don Lemon, basically say, you know, they seem upset that not more people are going to it. It makes zero sense. The only thing that makes sense about that is they want you there so they can nail you. And don't take the bait. All right, folks. Thank you for being here this morning. Hopefully you will join me tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to shut it down, refill the coffee cup, wait a few minutes, and go back through and write down all the chat that I missed, all the questions and things. But if you have anything else to add to the conversation, please leave a comment. And I appreciate y'all being here, and God bless you.